Today, a federal judge denied President Trump's efforts to keep his former national security advisor John Bolton's book from hitting the shelves on Tuesday. The book is full of damning revelations about this president's corruption and incompetence. Trump says it's full of lies and fake stories, but also apparently full of totally accurate classified information.
Obviously, the book was already out and leaked and everything else, but he leaked classified information, so he's got a big problem.
Joining us now is John Brennan, former CIA director, now, lucky for us, an MSNBC senior national security analyst. Director Brennan, the Bolton portrait of Trump is devastating. He depicts a president who's, in his execution of foreign policy, was totally corrupt, and it appears that he recognized that on day one. First, your thoughts on that portrait.
Well, I have disagreed with John Bolton many times over the years from a policy perspective. I've never known him to be dishonest, and the portrait that he paints of Donald Trump certainly is consistent with everything else that has been said about Donald Trump by those members of his administration and White House staff who have departed, and not always on amicable terms. So I think John Bolton is telling us basically what we know. He's giving it additional color. He's providing it stories. But this is certainly something that should come as no surprise to any American, given what we've had to endure over the last 3.5 years.
John Bolton doesn't know it yet, but he's about to travel a path you've been traveling for years since you told the truth. You have any advice for him?
Well, quite frankly, I have no sympathy for John Bolton because while he was National Security Advisor, he was one of Donald Trump's chief apologists and enablers. And moreover, once he left that position, he denied the country and the Congress the opportunity to hear these charges and these stories while an impeachment hearing and trial was going on. And he wanted to save it for his book. So he clearly has crossed swords with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a very, very vindictive individual who will carry a vendetta around with him. I have experienced such, and others have as well. But this is something that I think John Bolton has basically made his bed. He is part of this den of vipers that I think has plagued this country over the last several years. And so I think he has come to terms now with having to confront Donald Trump and the actions that he takes, enabled by William Barr. Between William Barr and Donald Trump, they've had a mutual manipulation relationship over the last several years. Donald Trump does things for his own personal, crass, craven interests, while William Barr does things for his far-right ideological agenda. And they both enable each other. And I think John Bolton now is running headlong into both of them, and this will play out in the courts.
William Barr has been invoked. William Barr's latest move combined two central features of the Trump presidency: incompetence and apparent corruption. He tried to fire the U.S. attorney from New York and failed, so today got Trump to fire the U.S. attorney from New York, who succeeded. Jeff Berman is leaving, but as Mike Schmidt from the New York Times reminds us, that office has prosecuted and imprisoned the president's former fixer and personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. It is at this hour investigating Donald Trump's current lawyer and fixer, Rudy Giuliani. What do you make of the firing?
Well, good on Jeffrey Berman for standing firm and not just capitulating to William Barr's and Donald Trump's decision to remove him until his deputy, who is a very well-respected individual who has been riding along with Jeffrey Berman on a lot of these cases, will become the acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. But I think it just demonstrates just how powerful a president of the United States can be in terms of, at his or her whim, just removing individuals. And the fact that Donald Trump continues along this very corrupt path should make us all very, very worried about what we're in for in the coming months, and particularly in this very dangerous period in the fall during election season and between Election Day and Inauguration Day. I think this just demonstrates that Donald Trump and William Barr will stoop to whatever depth they need to in order to carry out their own personal agendas.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.